So we haven't taken a look at Ben Shapiro's sister lately. Ben Shapiro's sister, Abby Shapiro, who of course has her channel Classically Abby, has a new video on why premarital relations are not good for you. So we'll watch this real quick and sort of talk about why, while it is okay to do whatever you want in terms of, quote, saving yourself or whatever, that does not necessarily make it universal for everyone. Let's take a look at what she has to say.
Hello, Classic Crew, and welcome to today's video, where we're going to be talking about why our modern approach to sex is actually way worse for women. If you are new to my channel, here we talk about classic living and traditional values. And I would love if you would consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell, as well as heading over to my Substack newsletter, where you can join our amazing community of women and get access to a ton of exclusive content, including my book club, my podcast, and exclusive weekly articles.
I just want to point out that some of my videos, and this is really funny to me because I've talked about this before, it feels like to me Abby Shapiro is, I don't know if she's jealous of Ben's popularity in right-wing circles, or if someone wanted to promote her channel and try and get her to be sort of the, like, Lady Ben Shapiro and appeal to sort of millennial-aged right-wing women in the same way that Ben Shapiro kind of appeals to millennial-aged right-wing guys. I don't know, but either way, it seems like a while ago there was a big push to popularize her channel and make her this big influencer. Didn't work. She has 104,000 subscribers, which is good, but I think a lot of them are people like me who subscribe specifically to comment or make fun of her. Because if you look at her videos, this video from a week ago has under 4,000 views. I have videos on my YouTube channel that get more views than that. Like, I put out a Peter video, that shit's getting at least 6K in a week. This one's 5.5, this one's 6.4. Some of them are higher. This one from 2 weeks ago, 36,000. But again, we have ones that are 5,000, 8,000. Really, really bad rates considering how many subscribers she has. So, I find that a little interesting. Paul the Potato says, my 42nd birthday today. Happy birthday. Meek says, why is she playing Christian music in the background? Isn't she Jewish? She is Jewish. Both Ben and her are Jewish, yes.
So for my classically...
Is Peter my bread and butter? The Peter videos do well, but there's other stuff that do well. Peter videos do well. Call videos do well. CC videos do well. It just depends, honestly. It's hard to say, but yes, Peter videos do pretty well. I don't like to think of anything as my bread and butter, though. I have a pretty eclectic, like, group of people, and I don't ever want to become the channel that just covers that one person, because once you do that, you're shoehorned, and I don't want to do that.
The Abby Book Club over on my Substack. We recently read a book called Cheap Sex by
Yeah, John Doyle does very well, too.
Mark Regnerus, who's a sociologist, and it was really eye-opening. I highly recommend picking it up if you are interested in reading it, because it is fantastic. And I wanted to hit on some of the points that he talks about. So he talks a lot about how sex has become economically cheap in our day and age.
The second you start talking about people's personal relations as if they're an economy that needs to be dealt with like a fiat currency, I'm out. I'm out. My relationship to other people physically, or the person that I'm in physical relationships with, in this case my fiance Baha, not anyone else's business, and if I was single, it wouldn't be anyone else's business what I choose to do with other consenting adults, right? It's not an economy. It's relationships between people, whether they're serious or casual or whatever. It's not an economy that needs to be managed. It's personal choices people make about what they do with other consenting adults.
Where it's just easy access from both a physical perspective and an online perspective. You can have sex in really any form you want without working very hard for it.
That's true. I don't know this to be a fact, but there's probably an app for just about everything these days. If you're into pet play, I bet there's an app. If you want to be paraded around like a prize pony, that's probably a thing. Which is also, I guess, pet play. What's another fetish? Feet? There's probably a foot app. I don't know. The point I'm trying to make is, Yes, in this day and age, people have an easier job than ever trying to connect with people. There's Tinder, there's Grindr. Those are the two I know. I'm sure there are more. But the point I'm trying to make is, yes, people can make connections with other consenting adults and go on little dates or choose to just hook up or whatever. And that's good. That's fine. People should have the right to do that.
And what that has done to our society, and especially to women.
Wait, pony play is different from pet play. How so? Now I'm confused. There is a foot wiki. That's true. I'm aware of the foot wiki.
Today, I really want to talk about...
I'm not trying to be condescending, by the way. Genuinely, it just seems like pony play would fall under the... Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Daddy Sume says pony play is a subset of pet play. It seems like it would be, but someone else said they're separate. Just seems like they're very similar. It seems like it would be a type, right? Like there'd be like cat girls or boys and dog girls or boys, and then pony girls or boys. I don't know people's fetishes. This video is gonna get demonetized.
About how our attitude towards sex...
Is Abby on WikiFeet? Hold on, let me turn the screen off and I'll look. Because I can't show you feet. Abby Shapiro WikiFeet. Oh my fucking god! Oh yeah. Not only does Abby have a WikiFeet page, Abby has a fucking prolific WikiFeet page that goes on for 2 pages. Abby has a 2-page WikiFeet. Feet are TOS on Twitch. They are if they're in this manner. There was a hypothesis she was perfectly showing her feet. There's 140 images of her feet on her WikiFeet page, so I gotta say, that would track. That said, don't go on WikiFeet. I think it's gross. Like, people don't consent to be on there. It's not cool. Someone sent this video.
Calling people daddy is gross. Stop kink shaming me. Kink shaming is my kink.
Jesus.
As women
Hydrate.
is not better for women in the long run. It's actually much, much worse. So let's get into today's video. Let's start off by talking about how sex became cheap. So really, the first thing that made sex cheap was the advent of birth control.
Wait, you guys are charging? That's fine. Just, Abby, you know most people just have sex consensually. Elminato says, now we know where those 4,000 views she gets are from. Everyone trying to update her WikiFeet.
Before birth control existed, sex and conception were inherently linked. There were ways to get around it, sure. You could absolutely have sex and not get pregnant, but there was always a risk that you would get pregnant. And with that in mind, it meant that you had to be more responsible about who you had sex with and when you had sex. Or at least you should have been, because if you weren't, then you could get pregnant, and that could have consequences that perhaps you didn't want to happen. With the advent of birth control, physical pleasure became entirely separate from the consequence of that physical pleasure.
It's cute that Abby thinks that before birth control, no one had sex for pleasure reasons. Like, I'm sure people were very much like, oh, we gotta, I gotta be careful I'm not gonna get pregnant. But before the pill, people still tried to track their cycles, which is very hit or miss. Please use fucking protection. People used to track their cycles, pulled out, which again, doesn't fucking work. Please use condoms and the pill and everything. But the point I'm trying to make is, Abby, do you think people in the past never had casual sex? Abby? Oh, Abby, no. D with Goblin says, I'm not cheap, Abby, I'm a special offer. Stone Corbell says, WikiFeet just seems like a Don Juan situation where the people obsessively cataloging every single foot picture of every celebrity are like indulging in a mania instead of doing something that actually take pleasure in. And Nick says, stop punishing people for sex, you country lady. And also condoms. Condoms have existed for a while. Latex condoms are relatively new, but like stuff like sheepskin condoms and other prophylactic things, they've been around for a very long time. Meek says, WTF is she talking about? Effective birth control and abortifacts have existed for thousands of years. The Romans, who are stewards of Western civilization, even had a plant they used for abortions. Yeah. It's not new. This is like right-wing puritanical myth-making. It's not about reality, it's about painting a picture of an imaginary past where all of these people's virtues were reality and everything was good. This is a lot of what right-wingers do, is they myth-make.
Sex became something totally separate than having a baby, which actually was not a good thing. It meant that sex became so much more about just stimulation than it did about the connection you were having with that other person and recognizing that that person could be the father of your children. Now,
what? Find me a single person with a functioning uterus that is engaging in sex who doesn't at least think, if they are with someone else who has like a penis and balls that function, that doesn't think to themselves on some level, I should be careful, because pregnancy is always an option, or always a potential side effect. That's a thing people think, Abby. What are you talking about?
when you separate sex
Especially if people have a breeding kink, then they're thinking about it a lot.
from conception, the problem is that in people's minds, it's an unnatural result of sex to get pregnant, which is exactly the opposite of the truth, right?
It's not an unnatural result, it's an undesirable result in many, many, if not most cases. Abby, even religious people don't want to get pregnant every time they have sex. Narnia Owl says, people having fun? The horror! Faints on couch. Daddy Sume says, I do love breeding, so much fun. And Baha says, wait, what? Just because Hannah and I are not having sex to get pregnant, how does that mean we aren't connecting? Wait, we're not trying to get pregnant? Why do you keep trying to get me pregnant so hard, then?
We know that sex and pregnancy are absolutely linked, but birth...
No, this is a weird straw man. No one thinks they're not linked in a causal way. It just is not necessarily a desirable result of the activity.
Control gives you the perception that the worst outcome of sex, the most unnatural outcome of sex, is pregnancy.
That was the case prior to birth control, too. Birth control just makes it easier to avoid that potential thing, being pregnant. Again, people had sex before birth control for fun. Condoms and other methods of birth control and abortion were a thing, and have always been a thing through all of human civilization, Abby. What are you talking about?
And when...
Tea with Goblin says, Abby, Sweet Pea, since you like classical values so much, I invite you to consider the following graffiti from the ruins of Pompeii. Women are for babies, and a young man is for pleasure, but a watermelon is for ecstasy. Humans have always liked fucking.
When that's the case, not only do people feel like pregnancy is now a choice, that...
It is. Literally it is. Nick says, someone tell this failed thesaurus that natural is not a synonym for good or desired.
that choice can lead to abortions. Because, oh, well, if...
Yes, you should be able to get an easily accessible abortion. Yep.
this is an unnatural result of sex, then I shouldn't have to deal with it, and I don't want to deal with the consequences. Now, I'm not somebody who believes that sex is only for the...
Getting an abortion would be dealing with consequences. It's just dealing with it in a way that you don't like because of your religious beliefs.
Purpose of having a child. Sex is about intimacy for a couple. It makes a couple come together closer and express their emotional feelings for each other in a physical...
It certainly can be. For instance, that's how I experience intimacy with Baha. At least one of the ways we experience intimacy. But I'm not naive enough to believe that that's the only way people have sex. It isn't. Some people just hook up for fun. Some people are friends with benefits. Some people have, like, on-again, off-again things with people. I don't care. It's fine. Human beings have been having sex with each other forever. It's kinda how you get more people. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. In whatever context you're having it, as long as you are consenting, enthusiastic adults engaging in sexual activity, I'm happy for you. Good for you. Who the fuck cares? Bittergrin says the Greeks and the Romans had a plant they used for contraception. They effed so much the plant is now extinct. Beautiful.
Physical way. It's a beautiful way to express our love for one another and come closer together as couples. But there's also always an understanding that it can lead to pregnancy. Even birth control is never 100% effective.
And people know that. And people know that. That's why Plan B and other over-the-counter, like, hey, there was a whoopsie. We need some sort of, like, thing like that. That's important. And access to abortion, also important.
And because of that, it should never be treated lightly, even though in 99% of cases, or 96% of cases for most birth controls, you won't get pregnant. The next part of the puzzle is the rise of the pure relationship over the traditional relationship. Anthony Giddens, who is another sociologist that Mark Regnerus references quite a bit in Cheap Sex, came up with this theory of the pure relationship.
This is gonna be weird.
So Giddens' argument about the pure relationship is that nowadays we have an understanding of relationships that's pretty self-absorbed and me based. Essentially, what Anthony Giddens argues is that the pure relationship exists only to meet the partner's needs, and as soon as those needs are met, the relationship can end. Couples are together because of love or because of sexual fulfillment, but they're not together because of tradition or duty.
Good! People's relationship should not be based on, like, abstract concepts of duty to one's ancestors? What the hell are you talking about, Abby? Okay, Abby and chat, would you rather be in a relationship or marriage with someone because of your mutual love and respect for each other, or because you want to make your dead ancestors happy? What sounds like a foundation for a healthier relationship? And even if we're talking like a traditional, I want to get together and have a family, a relationship built upon mutual love and respect and being able to give each other things that you both desire from one another, whether we're talking on that intimate level or a more practical level of just being there to support each other emotionally, financially, whatever's going on. That's still a better foundation for a relationship, marriage, and family than just saying, well, I need to get married because this book says so, or I need to get married because my great-great-great-grandparents got married, so I better too. That's incredibly stupid. That's so stupid.
And because
Meek, thanks for 8 months, and Daddy Sume says, I mean, a relationship built upon lust would be great too. Sure, that's fine for what it is, but right now I'm talking about more long-term relationships, because that's what she's talking about. Tea with Goblin says, to quote Orange is the New Black's Suzanne, it's not just sex, it's love, it's two people connecting with 4 other people, and aliens.
relationships are really seen as a way for you to find yourself, they're very short-lived. The phrase pure relationship sounds positive. It sounds like it's pure. It's not based on anything else. But marriages and relationships are based on commitments. They're based on traditions and duties to one another and to your children. And it's...
Why are you inherently connecting, like... Like, Baha and I are engaged. We're getting married later in the year. And, like, when we get married, oh, I'm getting gift subs. Wow, thank you. I'll go into that more in a second. When we get married, our relationship is built on mutual love and respect. And yes, on top of that, the marriage is also a promise to each other that we will be there for each other. And that, I think, is something that is on top of the love and respect, that, like, promise that, like, hey, no matter what, I am here for you. I'm your partner forever. And I think that's important. But it has nothing to do with tradition. I'm not getting married because of tradition. It's because I think it's a nice thing to do and a nice promise to make to your partner that you want to spend your life with. It has nothing to do with, like, ah, yes, I must go in the big room with all my family because this is what we have done for 1,000 years. Like, that's stupid. That's stupid. What are you talking about? Kippy with 45-bit says, this gets even more weird and awkward when people like Abby talk about sex and intimacy as mandatory for expressing love, even to the point of, quote, if you waste your body having sex with other people's prematurely, you aren't really in love, end quote. It's so weird to be asexual, and I can't even imagine how my aromantic siblings feel. Yeah, that must be weird for you. Nick says, if our ancestors wanted us to get married, then maybe they should have stayed alive. Robert Morley, thanks for gifting 10 tier 1 subs. Very generous, as always. And then Wagroads with 100 bits says, sorry, I didn't know if Disney taught me anything. It's that if I bring shame upon my ancestors, they'll send a fire-breathing lizard voiced by Eddie Murphy. H-Baird says, everyone keeps saying duty. And Arnendia Owl says, and here I thought sex was supposed to be for procreation only. Why is she trying to make it about love all of a sudden?
It's not just about what am I getting today? Am I happy today? Do I feel fulfilled today by you? Sometimes relationships are about putting in...
Most people don't view relationships that way, Abby. Like, there are days that relationships are difficult. It's not a quid pro quo, Abby. Why are you assuming relationships that aren't built on, like, tradition, especially in your case, religious tradition, that they aren't also about just, like, love and understanding and a commitment to one another? Like, what are you talking about, Abby? There are days when I really don't feel good, especially because I have, like, anxiety and depression and stuff. I have days that are, like, really bad for me, and I've struggled before. And not been on those days the best partner to Baha that I could be. But we've worked through those things, and now I'd like to think I'm dealing with it better on those days because we have a commitment to one another, and she supports me and I support her. Like, it's not a quid pro quo. What are you talking about, Abby? It's because we love each other. Harold Elbelman, thanks for 7 months, says, glad I've worked out how to do these things finally. Only took the second trimester. Nice.
And hard work and recognizing that you need...
Oh yeah, and to be clear, I'm not saying you need marriage to have that commitment. It's just something Baha and I want to do. But you can absolutely have that commitment and not get married.
To fight for what you built together and for the family that you have. And traditional relationships do that. Traditional relationships recognize that there's a lot more to a relationship than just, I loved you yesterday, but I don't love you today, so now it's over.
Every relationship virtually recognizes that, Abby. What are you talking about? People have bad days. People have tough times. That has nothing to do with whether or not you're going to continue the relationship because you have 1 or 2 bad days or even a rough patch. What are you talking about?
As relationships became more pure and less traditional, we see a decline in marriage. We see a rise in divorce.
Fun fact, she's just lying here. There has been a decline in marriage, but there's also been a decline in divorce. Divorce has gone down, I think, every year since the 1980s. Divorce is not up. It's down.
And we see sex treated as another path to fulfillment.
What? It's just a thing you can do. If you want to have sex with another consenting adult or multiple other consenting adults, who cares? If that makes you happy, good. If not, don't do it. That's fine. Who cares?
As opposed to something that is engaged in for the intimacy of a couple within a traditional relationship. So with those two things in mind, that leads us to number 3. Getting married has become less and less easy to do. Men can have access to sex with absolutely no problem.
Is she gonna say that it used to be easier to get a husband because they were desperate for your nether regions so you could trap them into relationships? Is she unironically gonna do the why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free argument? Seriously?
Men don't have to wait to have sex with someone because women don't feel like the sex that they are having needs to be with someone who will support them.
If the only reason that you would be getting married is because someone wants to have sex with you, You should not be getting married to that person, Abby. Have you thought about this for 5 seconds? 'Cause boy, he'll hit it and quit it for 5 seconds on your wedding night, and that's gonna be one hell of a post-nut clarity when he goes, oh God, I married someone just to bang them. What a nightmare. And this is why boomers hate their spouses, and that's the main thing in their humor is, haha, I hate my wife, haha, my husband doesn't satisfy me sexually, because they got married at 18 so they could bang. So terrible.
Raise children with them, or marry them. So sex is...
It's just such demonstrably bad advice. I'm so confounded.
Economically cheap. Men are able to have sex incredibly easily or access pornography on the internet.
Who do you think they're having sex with, Abby? Most men are straight. They're having sex with women who also can go and have sex if they'd like consensually with other adults. It's fine. Who cares?
And they don't need to...
Do you think porn didn't exist before the internet, Abby? I have some Roman walls to show you.
Wait to have sex, and in doing so, better themselves, have a good career in place so they can support a family. Men are really let off the hook, and women are the ones who are paying the price.
What are you talking about?
Women want to be married. This isn't a question of whether or not women want to be married. Women want to be married.
Depends on the woman. Depends on the man, Abby.
And when we have economically cheapened sex so that it's just available at any time to anyone, it makes it so that it is a lot harder to get married, because now it's not just, oh, men are going to get married to have sex and have a family.
Oh my God, she said it. She said it out loud. She just said it. Well, the only way I can get a man to actually want to spend time with me long term is if the only thing I have to offer is to give them sex. Oh God, Abby, what have you done? What are you doing? I know she's talking like a MGTOW person or like an I-word person. This is so weird.
Men now have to come to a conclusion that the relationship they are in is pure enough for it to lead to marriage.
Oh no! People might have to consider if their relationship is actually something that's sustainable long-term in order to support what they want for their future, whether that includes children or not. The horror! My husband used to just want to marry me because I'd let him nut inside of me every Sunday night. But oh my God! Now they actually have to consider if it's a sustainable relationship outside of me being my husband's cum dumpster. This is so bad.
Now, the really sad thing is number 4. The women who want to wait till marriage are now in a competition with the women who don't. And
wait, I thought you guys liked the free market.
when I say women who don't want to wait until marriage, I really think we're talking about an empowerment lie that women have bought into from a feminist narrative that says that they will enjoy their lives more if they have sex outside of marriage. But the fact of the matter is, women do
You probably will.
not find sexual satisfaction.
Robert Morley says LMAO at cum dumpster. Hey, respect to cum dumpsters. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a weird basis for a marriage.
Having sex outside of marriage, even though that's what they're told that they will do, and they will have a better sex life outside of marriage. Women don't enjoy sex in the same way when they're not married because it's unstable and they don't know that it's going to last. And even though it can be sexually fun, pleasurable for a short time, it's not sexually satisfactory in the long run.
Do you think Abby has ever felt sexually No, I'm not gonna get that personal. Daddy Sume says, I think we're listening to One Talk now. Hannah stands for the cum dumpsters for a reason. Ha ha ha. Renania Owl says, marry the first man you see, lead a happy life.
So what ends up happening is
Baja says, WTF, Hannah, you don't enjoy sex with me because we aren't married? I know, it's crazy, right? Ignore the other night when it was very enjoyable. Was that yesterday? Day before? I don't remember.
You have women who want to wait
I'm getting too personal. Jesus Christ.
being put in a position of having
I'm gross.
to consider their options. Can they wait? Will they be able to find a guy who's willing to wait for them? Because now that
Raven says, who's telling them this? Them. Who's them? Those people? You know who I'm talking about, wink wink. Tube Man says, so this is how all men are, and then it's a YouTube video.
Sex. Now!
What the fuck?
sex is so cheap, he can go anywhere. He doesn't have to wait for you. And now
If all you have to offer your partner is your genitals, you should not be in a relationship with anyone.
all of these people who complain that there's too much emphasis put on beauty in our society and that everyone needs to look perfect. Well, it makes sense. This is why. Number 5. Because sex is now mostly about physical pleasure. It's not about emotional intimacy between a
Bullshit.
couple. It's cheap. It's easy to access. And when sex is about physical pleasure and not about emotional intimacy, then of course it's going to be based off looks more than anything else. When sex is first and foremost about physical pleasure for men and women, more than a long-lasting relationship that lasts for both sides, then sexual attractiveness becomes the most important thing.
If you're just hooking up with people on Tinder, I guess. But that's what that is. They're adults. They're allowed to do that.
Not the relationship that spurs a beautiful sex life. And I want to touch on this point, which is number 6. Because marriage is now so much harder to attain, because marriage is not treated as something that people need, it's
Good.
treated as something that people can do if they want.
Good. People having choices is a good thing, Abby. Annie Kai, thanks for 10 months.
It's not considered the building block of a family or the building block of a relationship.
Good.
Women are getting married older.
Again, there's a reason divorce rates are lower. That's one of them.
It's harder and harder to meet somebody, and it's harder and harder to get married.
Good. Raven says, I promise you, most of the comments under Abby's video are reads, lols. Naninia Owl says, half of her channel is about how to look pretty. Don't you lecture us about unhealthy beauty standards? And Mike Mack says, women, just say you're drier than your sister-in-law. Or woman, just say you're drier than your sister-in-law.
So as women are waiting longer and longer to get married, they're also waiting longer and longer to have children. And fertility now becomes an issue.
No, it doesn't, Abby! Not for most people! What are you talking about? Is Abby one of those people that thinks women can't have babies above the age of 25 or something? Jesus Christ.
Because women are getting married older and older. Instead of thinking about fertility, women are looking for confluent love, pure relationships, this fulfillment that they think will come out of marriage, but
How dare they look for partners they actually want to spend their lives with? They should jump into marriage and then bed with the first person who wants into their wet snatch.
is really based on their self-absorbed finding themselves mentality. And the men that they want to marry are able to avoid making this commitment until much later down the line.
If you're not ready for that commitment, you're not ready for that commitment, and you shouldn't commit to something that you're not able to commit to. It's just, that's basic, Abby. How do you not understand this?
As well. And then all of a sudden, they're 35 and having to use IVF to get pregnant because getting pregnant as you get older is more difficult. All of this is a testament to the fact that marriage has
I like that she's talking about 35 like it's ancient, too. Baha says, oh, Abby, the horror. How dare people want this confluent love as a theory created by Gideons, which argues that individuals are now looking to create meaningful relationships that are based on love and respect. This theory challenges the traditional assumption about why and how relationships should be maintained. The horror. Raven says, here we go with the birth rates talk. All our lovely, pure, beautiful children aren't being born.
become something an elite few
Something 14 words.
people do because they want to, instead of a necessary part of starting a family. And as you guys know, I think marriage is incredibly important, and I think it's one of the most beautiful things that people can do. But without that building block, we are seeing women suffer in so many ways. Less physical satisfaction, having sex with men that they probably wouldn't want to have sex with but feel pressured to, because if they want to enter into a real relationship, a lot of men are not willing to do so.
Why? What? Okay, so Abby's argument is feeling pressure to have sex with someone, to get into a relationship with them, but they wouldn't want to have sex with them. Why would you want to be in a relationship with someone you didn't want to have sex with? I'm that meme where it's the math floating around the lady's head and you're trying to, like, figure it out. Think about what you just said, Abby. Women, you just said, are sleeping with men they don't want to sleep with to get into relationships with them. Why would they want to have sex with them? Or why would they want to be in relationships with them if they are uninterested in any sort of physical relationship with them? Now, that's a separate thing from, like, being asexual and just, like, not being interested in sex. That's a different thing. But she's talking about people who are theoretically at least attracted to the opposite gender, not wanting to sleep with this individual person, but using sex in order to get in a relationship with them. That's insanity. That's ridiculous. Tucker White says, I'm convinced, Hannah, step aside and let someone knock up Baja. You can watch from the cuck tent if you desire. Too far. Very too far. Narnania Owl says, we also don't have high infant mortality anymore. It's absolutely fine to have... Yep, I already said. Narnania Owl says, we also don't have high infant mortality anymore. It's absolutely fine to have children later if you don't want one or two anyway. I'm not clicking on whatever that link is, Tucker White. You're getting timed out for that. That was actually really fucking gross. What the fuck? Cruelty1 says, well, she's not wrong about the biology, though. 36 is tragically considered a geriatric pregnancy, and it's hard for those who want to be pregnant or their own children before hopefully cisverting the beauty of adoption. But at least it's a thing. It sucks, I guess, but that doesn't mean people should get knocked up earlier just because they feel obligated to do so.
Unless they have sex, waiting longer and longer to get married, and allowing sex to be economically cheap, and then struggling with fertility down the line. So the empowerment narrative that, oh, we should all be having as much sex as possible before we're married, outside of marriage, and that's really empowering. Who is it empowering? At the end of the day, it gives over much more power to men.
If you make Daddy Sume cringe, rethink yourself. Facts.
Men are the ones who get to now have access to something that they didn't have access to before unless they made the commitment, unless they promised to support you and stay with you. And you know who's losing? Women. So I really wanted to talk today about this. I hope it gave you something to think about. Make sure to check out Cheap Sex by Mark Regnerus. If you liked what you saw today, make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell. And if you're not already subscribed to my Substack newsletter, go ahead and head over to classicallyabby.substack.com. If you'd like to follow me on social media, it's at classicallyabby, absolutely everywhere. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!
Oh, that was bad even by Abby standards. Abby, listen. People can have sex with consenting adults and not be married. It's fine. I don't really care about how difficult that makes in your head to trick people into getting married when they otherwise wouldn't want to. That's disgusting. That's a really fucked up thing to think, quite honestly, and you should feel bad about it. Anyway, moving on.